The United States is looking to deepen its business relations in Africa. The Corporate Council on Africa says the upcoming African Continental Free Trade Agreement Forum in Botswana is a much-needed accelerant. Our business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo attended this year's African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is currently taking place at the ICC in Cape Town, and has the details.
Well, some of the sessions that did take place today unpacked the role that Western and other markets actually have when it comes to driving Africa's continental free trade area. And to give a little bit more insights on that, I am now joined by the CEO of the Corporate Council on Africa, that is Flory. Liza, thank you so much for your time and talking to us. You just had a session now unpacking some of the issues when it comes to the relations between U.S. and Africa and driving intra-Africa trade. Talk us through the role that the United States plays on the continent when it comes to driving that.
So first of all, I think that the United States and many of its African countries here, have had long-standing relationship. But I think that we haven't been as intentional as we needed to be. Many of the companies that are members of CCA, Corporate Council on Africa, we've been around for 30 years. We have companies that are members that have been here 60, 70, 100 years already. So it's not that the U.S. hasn't been here, but again, the focus and looking at how we can enhance U.S.-Africa trade and investment, the economic relationship, hasn't always been at the forefront. And I was making the point in the session that for many years, aid and development assistance were the focus. But then people realized that Africa really needed to play a greater role in the global economy through trade, through investment, through manufacturing, through value addition, adding value to their own commodities. So instead of just looking at aid, we started looking more at trade, and that was when the African Growth and Opportunity Act was established. But fast forwarding, in December, we had the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit and Business Forum, and there was a tremendous amount of focus on the economic relationship. Even during that summit, there was a signing of an MOU between the AFCFTA Secretariat, Secretary General Wamkele Mene, and the U.S. Trade Representative, Ambassador Catherine Tai. And it was just to say that the U.S. is supportive of AFCFTA. We understand its importance for the continent, but it's also important for us. How is it important? We have many companies that are focused on Africa, investing in Africa, but they can't do it one economy at a time. And Africa is a continent, I always remind people, not a country. It's a continent of 54 countries, but it's impossible to grow your business doing it one small economy at a time. There are some large ones, but there are many small ones. So the idea is that now that you have the African Continental Free Trade Area, a market of 1.3 billion people and 4.3 trillion in economy in terms of GDP, now companies can say, okay, I'm going to invest in this country to reach the entire market of Africa. And one example would be Ford. Ford has invested over $500 million in producing additional vehicles here. They were already here solely for the purpose of selling Ford cars across the continent. Now they can move across the borders with no tariffs. So intra-African trade is really not only beneficial for Africa and what you're doing with each other, but it's also beneficial for how other partners, your global partners, including the United States, of course, can engage with Africa.
And just, ahead in June, we are going to have the U.S. Business Summit that is hosted by the Council. What do you think are some of the pressing issues as we unpack these or explore these opportunities that really need to be explored further at that summit if we are to kind of move the needle when it comes to that relationship?
Yes, well, so we are having the U.S.-Africa Business Summit. We've been doing those for many years now. We've had about 5 of them on the continent. Last year we were in Marrakesh, Morocco. In 2019, just before COVID, we were in Maputo, Mozambique. And we're really delighted that we're going to be in Gaborone, Botswana in July 11 to 14. And this is our theme, which builds on what I was just saying. Enhancing Africa's value in global value chains. And we believe that we will have a number of people there, both from the governments of Africa, heads of state, ministers, as well as the U.S. government and the private sector, CEOs from U.S. and African companies, to talk about those key issues. How do we add value in agribusiness? How do we add value in ICT, in health? Why should Africa import most of its medicines and medical equipment when some of that could certainly be made on the continent? Why should DRC and Zambia be exporting raw lithium and cobalt and strategic minerals that go to China for processing into batteries and then into electric vehicles? Why can't some of the battery production for electric vehicles, which is a huge and growing market, trillion-dollar market that's growing, why can't some of that be done in Africa with African commodities? So this is what we're hoping to discuss at the summit, amongst many of the issues that we'll be looking at then.
Flory, thank you so much for talking to us, and we certainly look forward to that summit. Of course, that was Flory Lizelle, who is the CEO of the Corporate Council on South Africa, just talking us through some of the value that is there when it comes to the Africa and U.S. relations, calling it unlocking Africa's value in global value chains, saying that Africa has huge potential to actually, take over a lot of the global markets and also beneficiate here at home. For Newzroom Afrika on channel 405, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Cape Town.